Show you can go. Okay, it has started recording now.
Okay. Hi guys.
Hello, sir.
So I mean, in general, how many questions will be there from orthopedics?
Sir, it is not fixed, sir, actually.
At least to say 6 to 8.
Yes, sir.
Approximately 10, sir.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, right. So we'll pan out like this. Okay. Even though answer is given there, let us explain the rationale behind that. Right.
Yes, sir.
You can read the questions, which is not a principle of compound fracture management or compound fracture treatment. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what is compound fracture? Whenever a fracture has happened, if the fracture fragment is exposed to the exterior,
Environment, sir. Exposed to the environment, sir.
exposed to the exterior environment, right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
So
sir.
there is a breach in the skin along with the fracture, that is a compound fracture.
Yes, sir.
But similarly, if there is a fracture pelvis wherein the bones are poking through vagina, urethra, or rectum, even they are also open fracture or compound fractures.
Yes, sir.
So it was earlier classified as simple and compound fracture. Now we call it as closed and open fracture. You remember
Yes.
this?
Yes, sir. Close and open, sir.
Closed and open to the environment, either through the cavity or directly through the environment. So which is not a principle of compound fracture. So no tendon repair, aggressive antibiotic cover, wound debridement, and immediate wound closure. Right?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
These are the options given. So in any fracture management, in compound fracture management, what is emergency? Emergency is the management of the wound, not the fracture.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. According to the ATLS protocol, sir.
Yes. So after all A, B, C, the compound fracture management, first thing is you have to clean the wound. After the life-saving measures, you have to take up the limb-saving measures. What threatens the limb? What threatens the limb in any fracture for that matter is vascularity.
Yes, sir.
If the fracture is threatening the vascularity, you have to attend to that on priority basis. So once you rule out the vascular injury, you turn your attention to wound, right? So again, compound fractures or open fractures are classified by Gustilo-Anderson classification in 1, 2, and 3. I'm not getting into that. This is a basic thing you should know. I guess you must be knowing.
Yes, sir.
Gustilo-Anderson classification is used for open fracture classification, depending upon the size of the wound. So, no fracture is an emergency unless it is complicated with vascular injury or open fracture. So, open fracture wound is what we have to take care. So, here all negative is there. What is not a principle of a compound fracture treatment? So, all are principle of a compound fracture management. The choices given, one of which one is not a principle of management of a compound fracture. Tendon
Yes, sir.
repair, you have to repair the tendon.
Yes, sir.
Aggressive antibiotic cover, yes, it has to
Yes,
be
sir.
given. The contamination should not become an infection. You understand there is a difference between a contamination and the infection.
Yes, sir.
Contamination is whatever mud, grass, and all those dirt which gets into the wound is a contamination. If it is not debrided adequately and immediately, it is going to lead to infection. So, contamination, to overcome the contamination, what you do, surgical wound debridement is a essential principle of a compound fracture management. So once you do the wound debridement, you have to treat them, isn't it? So you give them a wide cover antibiotics, both gram positive, gram negative, and anaerobes. So whatever you should be knowing that, I am not getting into that. And then comes immediate wound closure. Do we have to do wound closure or no?
No, sir. It's a
No.
open, sir.
Certainly no, because no amount of wound debridement we can be sure that it is a clean wound. A contaminated wound is apparently can be converted to a clean wound, but we cannot be sure whether it can lead to infection. So open fracture, leave the fracture open. So the answer will be D. Understand?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any fracture for that matter is not an emergency unless it is open fracture or a vascular injury, impending vascular injury or open fracture. You carry home this message. So now it is very easy. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Now you know why this is why immediate wound closure is not essential. Whenever you see a CLW, you have a tendency to close it. That is not important. You press it with the wound to prevent the bleeding, but you cannot close the wound. You give a tight compression bandage to reduce the bleeding, but you are not supposed to close the wound in a compound fracture. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, why medial meniscus is more vulnerable to injury? Okay, because it is fixed to the tibial collateral ligament, because it is semicircular in shape, action of the adductor magnus, it is attached to the fibrous capsule. The answer is A. You see this diagram what I have given, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the pointer here?
Yes, sir.
See, you can see the fibula here. This is the lateral meniscus. This is the medial meniscus. Our lateral side, the lateral collateral ligament is far away from the meniscus. Look at the medial side. The medial meniscus is adherent to the medial meniscus. Medial collateral ligament is attached or adherent to the medial meniscus. That's why medial meniscal injuries are very, very, very common. In any sports injury or a twisting injury, most common meniscal injury is medial meniscus. And why medial meniscus often gets injured first is because it is adherent to the medial meniscus. You understand?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Okay. This again the second choice. It is semicircular in shape. That is not the reason. Remember this, the medial meniscus is C shape and the lateral meniscus is almost O shape.
O shape, sir.
Okay. Action of adductor magnus has nothing to do with the injury of the meniscus because it is extraarticular attached to the adductor tubercle and on the medial aspect of linea aspera. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And capsule. Our fibrous capsule comes beyond our medial collateral ligament. So there is a capsule all around the knee, but it is not fixed to the meniscus. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Some more things to be added is here is our anterior cruciate ligament.
Yes,
This is
sir. Anterior.
Yes, sir.
posterior cruciate ligament. Most common ligament, cruciate ligament injured is anterior cruciate
Yes, sir.
ligament. Okay. Right. We'll go to the next. Injury to the popliteal artery in fracture lower end of femur is often. In lower end of femur, most commonly popliteal artery is injured. What is the reason? Why does that happen? Can you see this? This is a CT angiogram. What I have?
Angiogram, sir.
Yeah. You can see this on the normal side. You can see the flow is adequate.
Yes, sir.
You can see all the arteries. This is a deep femoral artery, entire femoral artery. You can see popliteal artery. Then beyond, you can see. Here is the affected side wherein there is
Breach
no
of
flow,
continuity.
reduced flow.
Yes, sir.
Further filling is seen because of the collaterals. Because of the collaterals, you can see the further flow. So in lower third femur fracture, there is a tendency or there is a risk for a popliteal artery injury. That is because of, tell me the answer now. Distal fragment pressing on the artery, proximal fragment pressing on the artery, tight plaster or hematoma. Can anyone take a guess?
Sir, distal fragment, sir.
Yes, distal fragment. Distal fragment because the adductor pulls it.
Yes, sir.
Proximal fragment, there are abductors and vastus attached. The distal fragment is pulling the distal by the adductor magnus. The strong adductors pull the distal fragment medially, where the popliteal artery starts from the adductor canal. You know the anatomy of the femoral artery. The femoral artery, after entering the
Popliteal fossa.
hiatus, just about 5 to 7 centimeter above the popliteus. That's
Fossa.
where your femoral artery becomes the popliteal artery. It enters from anterior, from the medial compartment, and it goes to the posterior compartment. So
Yes,
popliteal
sir.
artery injury in the distal third femur fracture is because of pull of distal fragment because of the adductor magnus. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now injury to the that is repeat question. Okay, will not go that. Go to the fourth question. In transverse fracture of the patella, the treatment is, just focus on the options. Don't go to the answer. I'm not testing you at all. How intelligently the choices are given, how you have to rule out individually is what you have to learn. Most of the times you might not be knowing the answer, but by ruling out each of the choices, you'll be able to answer it correctly. This is one way of answering. Other ways, before reading the choices, you will know the answer. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes,
In
sir.
transverse fracture of the patella, the treatment is excision of the small fragment, wire fixation, plaster cylinder, or patelectomy.
Yes, sir. Is that a eight shape to air, sir?
Yeah?
Eight shape to air?
Yes, very good. Eight-shaped wire. What is that? Tension band. That is a
Yes,
tension
sir.
band principle. Okay, just a minute. What's up? Okay, so you can see that in a transverse fracture patella, again you have to learn about the patella fractures. I have just given one diagram here for the fracture patella. You see this? This is a transverse fracture patella. Understand?
Yes, sir.
So this can be, say, what are the choices now? Do you want to excise the small fragment,
No, sir.
or
No,
you
sir.
want to remove the entire patella,
No,
or
sir.
just want to immobilize the fracture by a plaster or wire fixation? So patella contributes the almost 20% of the weight is transferred through the patella because of the quadriceps tendon. 80% will go from the tibiofemoral joint.
Yes, sir.
Patella functions are, it reduces the joint reaction force on tibiofemoral joint. It gives a added lever mechanism for the quadriceps tendon. So briefly you understand the what about the patella fractures. Okay. Here is the flow chart or a algorithm of the treatment of patella fractures. So patella fractures, if displaced more than 2 to 3 millimeter, displacement is different, step is different. I'll just show you if I can with the pointer. See, if there is a patella like this is a normal patella, this is a patella fracture. If it is displaced, it is displaced.
Yes, sir.
This is the gap is the displacement, or there can be a step off. A patella, it looks like a mirror, but one is above, one is below. That is a step off. That is a step. The
Yes, sir.
So either a step off or a displacement more than 2 to 3 millimeter, or a step off of more than 1 to 4 millimeter, you have to further follow this flow chart. If these are not there, it is not displaced, there is no step off, plan for a plaster application. Plan for the plaster application. You can treat the patella fracture, any fracture, without a displacement, without a step off. Any intra-articular fracture for that matter is a fracture of necessity. What is fracture of necessity? Which is always operated. Some of the fractures of necessity are intracapsular fracture neck of femur, scaphoid fracture, lunate fracture. All intra-articular fractures are generally treated by surgery. Exceptions are these patella, provided these criteria fit on. There is no displacement, there is no significant displacement, or there is no significant step off. You can treat with a brace. So what if there is a displacement? What if there is a step off? Look for the fracture geometry. What are the fracture geometry? This is how you get different types of fracture geometry. It can be a transverse fracture, it can be a vertical fracture, it can be a comminution or a stellate fracture. Comminuted fracture is also called as a stellate fracture. Please remember that. How the fracture patella happens is, if there is if the a young patient going playing in a football field or any field for that matter, suddenly if he stops, there can be excessive quadriceps action and the patella is split into two halves. This is an indirect injury, indirect mechanism of injury for the transverse fracture. But for a comminuted fracture, a direct fall on the knee causes comminuted fracture. So how do you treat the transverse fracture? Transverse fracture is always by tension band wiring. Understand? Remember this. How is the tension band wiring done? This is a patella, which is a fracture. Any fracture fixation is, you have to reduce the fracture. So generally in orthopedics we call either it is a closed reduction or a open reduction. Open reduction by opening the fracture side. Closed reduction is not opening the fracture. So this fracture patella we have reduced open by doing surgery, and you fix it by 2 wires like this, and then comes your figure of 8. Right? So
Yes,
for
sir.
transverse fracture, you can just put wires. But if you ask him to move, or if he doesn't, if he bears weight, the quadriceps can pull, isn't it? To prevent that pull, we have to put a stainless steel wire in the shape of figure of 8. Tension band principle is used other than fracture patella also. Can anybody tell me where it is used? Tension band principle other than patella.
Uh,
Can
sir,
any-
Olecranon process, sir.
Yes, excellent. Olecranon process. Again, there is no patella, but compare triceps to the quadriceps. There it is a triceps action. Triceps tries to pull the olecranon process, just like the patella is pulled by the quadriceps. So tension band principle is applied even for olecranon fracture. And one more site of tension band application is greater tuberosity. Wherever the strong muscle pull causes a avulsion fracture. Remember that. A strong muscle pull which causes a avulsion fracture. If I can name a few, patella fracture, olecranon fracture, greater tuberosity avulsion fracture in the shoulder, or greater trochanter fracture because of the avulsion of the gluteus medius. And one more is there, medial malleolar fracture. Remember this. In medial malleolus fracture, even though there is a tension band principle applied, there is no muscle pulling the medial malleolus. It is because of your tibialis posterior tendon. We'll not get into that, but please remember these are the sites where we use tension band principle.
Yes, sir.
Understand? Okay. In vertical fracture, what do you do in vertical fracture? Can we use same tension band principle in a vertical fracture? Certainly no.
No, sir.
Because quadriceps always pulls upwards. But so where the fracture displaces. But if there is a vertical fracture, it doesn't displace side to side because they are all still your retinaculum is intact. So even though there is a vertical fracture, it doesn't get displaced like this, what I have shown in the diagram. It displays medial laterally, but it is not in the line of the pull of the quadriceps. So what you do there, if it is minimally displaced, just the cast. If it is displaced to a greater extent, use the screws. Don't use the tension band. Comminution, of course, there is a mention of plate fixation. This is little stretching too much, but generally comminuted fracture where you just imagine a glass tumbler or a saucer which is broken. If you drop it from a height and if it falls into too many pieces, you can probably assemble it. You can assemble it. Okay, but how do you hold? You hold it by a cerclage wire. But if the articular surface of the patella is damaged beyond repair, it is better you excise the patella. You do a patelectomy. Here it is there mentioned. You can see severe comminution. Better to do a patelectomy. Again, patelectomy, there is a partial and total. Will not get into that. But just if you are interested, you understand. Partial patelectomy is when if there is a non-articular. 80% of patella is articular. But here this portion is non-articular. Even though there is a bone, this is non-articular. If this portion of the bone is fractured, you can do a partial patelectomy. But try and save the entire articular surface. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there is a repeat question. Of course, I have downloaded this question. I am not prepared. Just forgive me for that. Go for the fifth. Again, there is a typo. Most common type of dislocation of the hip. Can anybody
Posterior. Posterior, sir.
Excellent. Posterior dislocation is most common. Understand? You know why?
Yes.
You know why? Most commonly it is called as a dashboard injury. Dashboard is whenever you are traveling in a car, you are if you meet with a head-on collision, there is an injury over the knee and the hip which is flexed, the head tends to get out of the socket. You remember that hip is a very, very stable joint, unlike the shoulder. Shoulder is a unstable joint. You can imagine the surface of a hip wherein almost the entire head is covered. Entire head is covered by the acetabulum.
Yes, sir.
But in the shoulder, it is only 1/5 of the head. 1/5 of the head surface of the glenoid. The head is articulating. So shoulder is unstable joint. You get plenty of question on instability of the shoulder. But in the hip, the question is generally because of the dislocation.
Yes,
It
sir.
is easy to dislocate the shoulder, but it is you require a very heavy, high energy trauma for a dislocation of a hip.
Hip.
Right. We'll go ahead. Okay.
Yes, sir.
March fracture. Has anybody heard about the March fracture? Okay, March it's nothing to do with the month of March. Marching, I think you have heard where the soldiers do marching, where the policemen do marching. March fracture is one of the type of stress fracture. One of the type of stress fracture. I have just added one photograph for your benefit. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is a fracture of a neck of a second metatarsal. Of all the metatarsal, you see the arch here. The longest is the second metatarsal.
Yes, sir.
And whenever you walk after the heel strike, where the maximum weight is transferred to the heel, you can see the weight transfers from the lateral part of the sole to the medial part of the ball of the toe. This is how the weight is transferred. Can you make out what I'm saying?
Yes,
After
sir.
heel strike, you do a maximum load is on the heel, then lateral border which touches the ground, This is where the weight transfers when you progress in the gait. Then the weight goes and stops on the medial side. That's why you see there is a ball of a toe which takes the maximum weight. This part of the sole is generally hard, isn't it? Because it bears a lot of stress. Uh, uh, okay, I am not able to rub this. Okay, March fracture is nothing but a stress fracture at the neck of the second metatarsal. Okay,
Yes, sir.
remember, second metatarsal is the longest of the metatarsal of all the five. That's why it gets fractured. It is most commonly a march fracture is because the marching is seen in soldiers, long duration march, or it can be a marathon runners, or it can be a policeman doing a march past activities. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commonest complication of the extracapsular fracture neck of femur. Fracture neck of femur, I think there will be plenty of questions to be generally they ask because it being the most common
Yes, sir.
geriatric fracture. You get most common fracture neck of femur, especially in elderly women.
Elderly
Elderly,
women, sir.
yes. Okay. Most common complication of a extracapsular fracture neck femur. You see this non-union ischemic malunion. Again, there is a type of pulmonary complications. The answer is
Sir, sir,
answer is,
malunion.
answer is C, but that is wrong. Answer is
Systemic
non-union.
necrosis.
Non-union.
Answer is non-union.
Yes, sir.
Please refer that. One thing is for sure, there is no malunion in fracture neck femur. There is no pulmonary complication in fracture neck femur. Please
Yes, sir.
remember that. Fracture neck femur is known because of it is strange vascular arrangement of the femoral head. Please remember that. It is a typical arrangement of a vascular supply for the femoral head. I'll not get into the vascular supply of the femoral head, but the most common complication, these are the two common complications of fracture neck of femur. Either it is a non-union or a ischemic necrosis. Ischemic necrosis, please remember, it is a femoral head. And you just understand this diagram because they might of late, I think they have started giving pictures in MCQs also. Please remember this.
Yes, sir.
This is normal anatomy. You can this is color coded. The the fracture between this portion and this portion is a fracture neck of femur, intracapsular fracture neck of femur. Please remember, proximal femur fractures broadly are classified as intracapsular and extracapsular because there is a reason for that. Intracapsular fractures without treatment, it is again a fracture of necessity where you invariably have to operate, and intracapsular for the reason it is because of a typical blood supply of the femoral head. So again, fracture neck femur is again anatomically classified depending upon the size of the fracture. Just below the head, it is a subcapital. Here it is in the middle of the neck, it is a transcervical. It is a simple. These are the anatomical classification of intracapsular fracture neck of femur. Okay, anatomical. Anatomical means based on the site. Okay,
Yes, sir.
again, they are classified depending upon the angle it causes. The angle, see, I was mentioning about this.
Powell's classification.
Yes. So these are anatomical classification. There is one more classification based on the angle it forms. Based on the angle the fracture neck forms with the horizontal line. So that is called classification. Please remember this. Powell's classification is very simple. Less than 30, 30 to 50 and above 30, 30 to 50 and above 50. 30 to 50, 50 to 70 and 70 and above. Why this is important? I will impress upon not the degree which you can go and read. Why this is important is if the more perpendicular a fracture, it is going to there will be a shear force. You understand? Shear force is nothing but a friction because your body weight acts like this and your gate this pull happens like this in this arrow, your body weight happens like this is going to shear down means because of the weight it displaces. The higher the angle in the Powell's angle, it is going for a non-union for sure. If you see a fracture with a 30-degree angle, there is some amount of compression happening. So again I will draw one more diagram here. So suppose there is a fracture like this. Okay, this is a lesser angle, Powell angle less. If there is a weight transmitted generally like this, you can see even though this tries to displace, some amount of compression force will act in a lower angle in less 30 to 50 or below 30. But in higher angle, so higher angle fractures are known for non-union. Lower angles, the chances of non-union is less. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll just touch upon what are other fractures around the proximal hip. You just understand because there is a diagram. I will explain this. Intertrochanter fracture is also called as a
Extracapsular.
extra capsular fracture, because for that you should know there is an attachment of capsule like this. Anteriorly it attaches to the intertrochanter line, posteriorly somewhere in the middle. So half of the neck posteriorly is bare. So if there is a fracture beyond the intertrochanteric line, it is an intertrochanteric fracture. Why intertrochanteric? This is your GT, this is your lesser trochanter. So a fracture can happen like this. Basically, it is an extra-articular fracture. The problems with extra-articular fractures are different. Problems with the intra-articular fractures are different. Intracapsular fracture in femur, non-union or avian for sure, unless treated otherwise. Greater trochanter fracture, it is vascular. No vascular supply is impaired much in a extracapsular fracture neck femur, where even though not treated, the most common complication of intertrochanteric or extracapsular fracture neck femur is malunion. Please remember this. Malunion is most common in a extracapsular fracture femur. In intracapsular fracture neck femur, it is either non-union or avascular necrosis. So please remember this. Okay, we'll go to the next. Internal fixation is done in all the fracture except. Please, can you read this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Of course, the answer is there, which will seek the explanation. So any fracture for that matter will unite. But what we want, it has to unite in an anatomical position. Even a traditional bone setter applies the sticks and other things, it will unite. But what we want union in an anatomical position. That's why all the fractures at times have to be fixed. So answer in this case is multiple fracture you have to fix invariably, because you want to, a whole idea of treating any fracture is you have to fix and mobilize. Motion is life, life is motion. So multiple fracture, all the more reason you have to operate. Elderly person, it is a strong reason you have to operate, because if you don't operate, you make him lie down for the lower limb fracture, he will end up with hypostatic pneumonia and a lot of other complications. So compound fracture, we don't do internal fixation. You do external fixation. Please remember read the question properly. The question, it is written as an internal fixation. fixation is essential in all the three choices. But compound, you do external fixation, not the internal fixation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next question. Myositis ossificans is most commonly seen at the following joint. It is most commonly you see around the elbow. Answer is wrong. Around the elbow.
No, sir.
Acha, it is written B. Okay. So most commonly you see the myositis ossificans around the elbow. Most commonly due to supracondylar fracture
Yes, sir.
in the children treated by a osteopath who has undergone aggressive massage therapy. Okay. The most important factor in fracture healing. I want somebody to take a guess for this answer. Most
Immobilization, sir.
Immobilization.
Very good. Good alignment. Yes, you can do it otherwise. But if it is not fixed, okay, you know that answer very well. Organization of the clot, yes, it is essential. Good alignment is essential. Accurate reduction, 100% opposition is not always essential. There can be malalignment. It can still unite. What is important is immobilization. Please remember, immobilization is the most important thing. What you do in plaster is again immobilization. What you do in internal fixation is again immobilization by either rod and bolt or plate and screws. Okay. Most preferred treatment of fracture neck of femur. Fracture neck of femur in. Okay, sorry. Most preferred treatment of a fracture neck femur in a young person. Please remember that. So
Yes,
fracture
sir.
neck femur is a fracture of necessity. You have to operate. Okay. So that is for sure. So what are the choices? Hemiarthroplasty, total hip arthroplasty, conservative treatment, close reduction and internal fixation. Okay, go one by one. Close reduction is out of question. Close reduction and internal fixation is done for nailing or diaphyseal fracture. Conservative treatment, as I said, it is a fracture of necessity. You cannot treat conservatively.
Yes,
So
sir.
arthroplasty or hemiarthroplasty. Now these two things are remaining. Okay. So hemiarthroplasty is generally for the people who are old, 65 and above. Below
Yes, sir.
65 and above, if they are healthy, there is something
5 and obese, sir. Yes, sir.
there is something called as community ambulators or house ambulators. If you never go by the age, if there can be always a variable in the question. Elderly patient who is a community ambulator. Community ambulator is significantly independent lady who does her own work. So there you cannot go for a hemiarthroplasty because there is a limited lifespan for the femoral head, the replacement what you have done. There you have to choose a total hip arthroplasty. Understand? Replacement is generally for elderly population. Please remember this. Replacement is for elderly population. Active elderly patient do total hip arthroplasty where the lifespan further longevity is more than 10 years. More than 10 years you do total hip arthroplasty. If the expected longevity or the lifespan is less than 10 years, you do hemiarthroplasty. Now what are the choices remaining for us? Either conservative or close reduction and internal fixation. Yes. Conservative is out of question. Close reduction and internal fixation, what I was mentioning, is
Yes, sir.
here, even though you open the fracture here, you do an incision here, but you are not opening the fracture. So that is technically a close reduction. You are putting screws here, but the fracture is not open. So it is a close reduction and internal fixation with screws. Will not get into that, but close reduction and internal fixation is here. The whole idea of fracture neck femur is you want to save the head or sacrifice the head. Replace the head or save the head. Save the head is called as osteosynthesis. Try to unite. Synthesis is trying to unite, union. So replacement, I have just added a photograph here. This is a replacement. Here the replacement is total hip replacement. Even though the femur head appears like this is not AMP. I think people who are interns can understand this. Here the femoral head, neck and head and the acetabulum is also replaced. It is total hip arthroplasty. If only the femoral head and neck is replaced, it is a hemiarthroplasty. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is Lisfranc fracture? Lisfranc fracture dislocation or a Lisfranc dislocation?
Tarsometatarsal, sir.
Look at the choices. It is quite funny, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
You're looking at the choices, even though you don't know it is a tarsometatarsal dislocation, you going by the choices, you will understand lunate, scaphoid, they're all in the wrist. Posterior
This is
dislocation.
hand, sir. Actually,
Tell me.
sir, list rank for first, second, and third tarsometatarsal of foot, sir.
Yes, tarsometatarsal dislocation. Again, there are two types: divergent and I'll show a photograph of that. This is an example of a Lisfranc fracture. Look at this.
Yes, sir.
The base of the metatarsal are totally deviated away from the tarsal bones. This is one of the example. Again, please remember Lisfranc's dislocation is tarsometatarsal dislocation. There are two types. All the 5 metatarsal can be dislocated one. And again, one important anatomical thing what I want to mention is here, as I said, the second metatarsal, which is long, it is also tightly held by first and third. So this is only tarsometatarsal dislocation, again associated with metatarsal neck fracture. Will not get into that. Tarsometatarsal dislocation is Lisfranc dislocation. Position of immobilization in fracture both bones of forearm in adult will be, the answer of course is in these choices I am telling you. The prone, mid-prone and supine. This is quite a tricky question. It is always, you should, it is always where the fracture has happened. It is in the proximal third or a middle third or a distal third. Depending upon the site of the fracture, you have to immobilize. This is quite an ambiguous question. But of course, you cannot. I don't know whether you can answer such question or it might be a controversial question. But please remember, the position of the forearm in a fracture, both bones is depending upon whether it is a proximal third, middle third, or a distal third. Proximal third, understand the proximal. What muscles are attached? Supinatrus, isn't it? So, hello.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Are you following?
Yes, sir.
So it depends upon the site of the fracture. Carpal bones which fractures commonly. I think the answer is very, very obvious. Scaphoid fracture is generally the most common carpal bone. Lunate, hamate, pisiform are least common. I have just added a photograph of a fracture scaphoid which is fixed by a Herbert screw. Again, please remember 1 or 2 points about the scaphoid fracture. Scaphoid fracture is most common carpal bone is scaphoid fracture. Most common site of the scaphoid bone which is fractured is the waist of the scaphoid. Waist. There is head, waist of the body. So most common site of the scaphoid fracture is the waist, and most common complication is again avascular necrosis, just like that in a femoral neck. And which part of avascular necrosis? Which part goes for avascular necrosis?
Head of the femur, sir.
No, in the scaphoid.
Sir.
It is a proximal part because your blood vessel enter in the scaphoid tuberosity. All the muscle supply coming like this is injured. So this part goes for a fracture. The proximal part of a scaphoid bone fracture, scaphoid goes for a avascular necrosis in a scaphoid waist fracture. Understand? Of course, you know the mnemonic, isn't it? Mnemonic about the carpal bones.
Yes, sir.
Anybody knows? She looks too pretty. Try to.
Try to catch it.
Okay, this is the arrangement. Scaphoid, lunate, trapezoid, trapezium, SLTP. Understand? Scaphoid, lunate, trichotrum, pisiform. TTCH is trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. This is just if you can half of the time you can remember factual things. Factual things you remember either by mnemonic or visualization of the picture.
Sir.
Okay, true about the clavicle fracture. Most common is medial 1/3 and lateral 2/3. Comminuted fracture is common. Malunion is common. Usually occurs due to fall on the elbow. Answer is C. Most common medial 1/3 and lateral 2/3 comminuted fracture. Clavicle fracture, you please remember one thing. Even if you don't operate, it unites, but it unites in a mal position. Malunion of the four choices given, malunion is the most common outcome of a fracture. I don't say complication; it is the outcome of a fracture, whether treated or not treated. You can treat with the figure of 8. Again, you remember figure of 8 in tension band, figure of 8 bandage in clavicle. Okay.
Yes, sir.
This 20th, again, I was coming here. The commonest site of fracture scaphoid is waist. Waist, proximal 1/3, distal 1/3. Of course, this is a wrong choice. What is waist is the most common site of the fracture. So excision of the fractured fragment is practiced in all the fractures except I had explained in the patella, olecranon, head of the radius, and lateral condyle of the humerus. Please remember that. In patella, you can excise partially. Can you excise olecranon? No. Head of the fracture, yes. Comminuted head of the fracture can be excised. Lateral condyle, if it is non-united or a non-union, you can excise. So olecranon is you cannot excise. It is a indispensable. You cannot excise a fracture olecranon if there is a small fragment. You have to fix it. Complication not common in Colles fracture. Malunion, non-union, Sudex atrophy, stiffness of the wrist. Okay.
Yes,
Please
sir.
go through the choices. Don't look for the answer. You can as well answer it, but you should understand the rationale or the logic behind the answer. Colles fracture is one fracture similar to intertrochanter fracture or clavicle fracture, which invariably unites. Most common complication is malunion. Okay. So non-union, never non-union occurs in a distal end radius or a Colles fracture. Non-union is not at all seen. Whether you treat, a intern treats, or a uneducated person treats, malunion is a possibility. Non-union, no. Sudex atrophy, stiffness of the wrist are one and the same. So the complication not common in Colles fracture is non-union. Okay. In 65-year-old male with a history of fracture neck femur, which is old, 6 weeks old. Treatment of choice, SP nailing, McMurray's osteotomy, hemiarthroplasty, none. Okay, you apply you apply that. SP nail is, you know what? It is one of the device to fix the fracture.
Yes, sir.
So what are the problems in this patient? One is it is a old age patient. Second is it is fracture is also old. It is not a fresh fracture. It is a old fracture in a old patient. So if you want to fix this such fracture, there is a possibility of avascular necrosis and non-union. And the patient has to undergo surgery one more time. So better replace it. Don't try to save. There are two odds in this patient to save the head. One is the age of the patient. Second is age of the fracture. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the answer is hemiarthroplasty. In Colles fracture, what is not seen? Proximal impaction, lateral rotation. There are six displacements. There are six displacements. So there is a lateral displacement, dorsal displacement, lateral angulation, dorsal angulation. There is a impaction or a shortening. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
proximal impaction is there, lateral rotation is there, dorsal angulation. So even if you don't know about the Colles fracture, the two choices are paradox. Either it can be a lateral rotation or a medial rotation. So look at the picture. Here the rotation is on the lateral side, or you don't say it is a lateral displacement. It is a lateral rotation. Look at this. Dorsal displacement, dorsal rotation. So medial rotation is not a possibility. Answer is D. In fracture medial epicondyle of the humerus, which of the following can be affected? Can anybody answer this? It can be simply flexion of the fingers, because what is there on the medial epicondyle of the humerus? What structure gets affected if there is a medial epicondyle?
Flexors.
Generally, it is a ulnar nerve. No, it is the ulnar nerve which gets entrapped. So ulnar nerve, what it causes? It causes a clawing of the hand. Clawing of the hand, you can see the flexion of the fingers. No adduction, no abduction. All the intrinsics of the hand. There are 15 intrinsic muscles. There are 20 intrinsic muscles. 15 are supplied by the ulnar nerve. 5 are supplied by the median nerve.
Median
Can
nerve.
you tell me what are the intrinsic muscles? Quickly. I am just left with one or two slides. We'll wind up. Anybody for that matter. What are the 20 intrinsic muscles? Name them quickly. Okay, to make it simple, I'll tell you 5 thenar muscles, 5 hypothenar muscles. Okay?
Sure.
5 dorsal interossei, 5 lumbricals, 4 5 are 20, 4 groups, 4 muscles, 5 groups. Please remember this. 4 muscles and 5 groups. 4 is 4 thenar muscles, 4 hypothenar muscles, 4 dorsal interossei, 4 palmar interossei, and 4 lumbricals. Okay? 4 5s are 20.
Sir, thinner, hypothinner, lumbrical, and interossei, sir.
Dorsal interossei and palmar interossei.
Yes, sir.
So again, the functions also you remember that. You know, no? Dorsal is abductor, dab and pad. DAB, dab, dorsal abductors. Palmar adductors, PAD. Pad, if you remember, you can use the opposite word. This is one of the some mnemonics which have been taught to us as well. Okay. Most common cause of pathological fracture in a child. Malignancy, bone cyst, fibrous dysplasia, Paget's. Okay. My model is not trying to answer. You should know the logic behind the question. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So malignancy. There are childhood malignancies, but they are rare. Fibrous dysplasia and Paget's are especially in the adult age population.
Yes, sir.
Fibrous and Paget's are in elderly age group, middle age to elderly. So what is remaining? Bone cyst. Simple bone cyst is the most common cause for a pathological fracture in a child. Okay. Most of the times you might not know the answer directly, but if you can rule out one by one the choices given, 50% of the chance are that you can answer. So you can narrow down the choices and you can answer correctly. A lady presents with a history of fracture radius, which was put on a plaster of Paris, cast for 4 weeks. After that, she developed the swelling of the hand with a shiny skin. What is the most likely diagnosis? Okay, look at this. So, what are you read this clinical situation? Sorry. So, the patient has been treated with plaster of Paris for 4 weeks. After that, she developed the swelling of the hand with a shiny skin. Okay, what are the choices? Myositis ossificans, no, it is most common around the elbow.
Elbows.
Malunia, yes, it can be a possibility, but we don't have swelling and shiny skin. Okay, malunion, you will get a dinner fork or a silver fork deformity depending upon the economic status of the patient. If the patient is rich, you call it as a silver spoon deformity. If he is poor, it is simple a dinner fork deformity. Okay, jokes apart. So, rupture of extensor pollicis longus tendon is also one of the complication. Please remember this. Extensor pollicis longus. Can anybody tell me the anatomy? The girl who I think is fresh from the anatomy. Anatomy, extensor pollicis longus around the wrist. Okay, extensor pollicis longus tendon on the dorsal side deviates. There's a very important Lister's tubercle. Lister's tubercle. It deviates from ulnar side to the radial side in the thumb. Extensor pollicis longus is one of the complication of a pollice fracture, but it is not the most common complication. Here in this clinical scenario, the answer is reflex sympathetic dystrophy, RSD. Reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Here the fracture is also called as a fracture disease. Here the fracture is united because of the hyperactivity of the sympathetic nervous system. Reflex sympathetic dystrophy is most common following a distal and
Sir,
radius fracture. Yeah.
so shiny skin, when with shiny skin is a complication, we
No, it
can
is
go
not
for
a
sympathetic
complication. It is not a complication. It is one of the clinical sign for a
dystrophy.
sympathetic dystrophy.
Yes, sir. Like when there is a shiny skin, we can directly go for sympathetic dystrophy.
Yes, certainly. No doubt about that.
Yes, sir.
So, H are the components of a rotator cuff except
Teres
supraspinal.
major.
Yes, good. Okay, the arrangement
Teres minor is the component, sir.
you remember SSIT. SSIT. Anteriorly it is supraspinatus, posteriorly it is supraspinatus.
So,
Hello?
Subscapulary.
Subscapularis, infraspinatus, and teres minor, not teres
Minor,
major.
sir.
Teres major is attached to the which side of the lady between two majors? You know what is lady between two majors?
uh,
What is lady between two majors? Which are the two major?
one second, sir.
Pectoralis major and teres major. Lady latissimus dorsi. Latissimus dorsi. The bicipital groove, the lateral edge is attached by a pectoralis which is comes from the anterior. Medial ridge is attached by a teres major. The latissimus dorsi is in between. The lady between two major. That's how I used to remember in my undergraduate days. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Complication of fracture scaphoid. I was coming to this. Injury to the radial artery. Avascular necrosis of the proximal part, avascular necrosis of the distal part, injury to the radial nerve. See, by ruling out the options, the problem I am telling you, you can easily rule out. Injury to the radial artery is ruled out, injury to the radial nerve is ruled out. Nowhere they are connected to the fracture scaphoid. Now you are
Yes, sir.
stuck with two choices. Either it is the avascular necrosis of the proximal part or avascular necrosis of the distal part. Okay, because
Yes, sir.
where vessels enter from distal to proximally. Once there is a This is okay. I'll draw the diagram. This is your scaphoid. It looks like sausage. Okay, forgive me for that. This is our waist. Your all the vessels enter like this and supply distal part. Once there is a fracture, there is no independent supply for this part. So this will go for your avascular necrosis. No confusion here. Proximal part which is more closer to the cranial side. Distal side, distal of course. I need not explain that. Which fracture of neck of femur has a poor prognosis? I think you can easily guess that.
Yes, sir.
I had explained intracapsular or extracapsular.
Yes, sir.
Any fracture, all the problems with the fracture are same, whether it is intracapsular or extracapsular. But one additional problem with intracapsular is vascularity. So that has a problem, and that fracture has a poor prognosis. Fracture blisters commonly appear on how many days? Well, 3 to 5 days. This kind of questions I'm not much of interest. I don't take much interest. If the greater tuberosity of the fracture is lost, which of the following movements will be affected? It's very simple. It's an anatomical question. Okay, so there is, I think you can hear a background noise, which I'm extremely apologetic about. So GT, you said GT is attached by supraspinatus. GT is supraspinatus. So what happens with GT avulsion fracture? I said GT avulsion fracture again treated by tension band wiring, just like any avulsion fracture. Which of the following movements will be affected? So what is the function of supraspinatus? Abduction and elevation. It is actually a stabilizer. Main abductor is deltoid, but initiation of the abduction is done by greater supraspinatus. Please remember, this is very important. You might get a lot of clinical scenario. I'll just take 1 minute. Initiation of the abduction is by supraspinatus. Please remember this. Further, the main abductor of the arm is what? Deltoid, isn't it? But initiation of the abduction is by supraspinatus. If there is a supraspinatus tear, initial abduction is lost. Further, if you assist, the patient can easily abduct above head. Okay. Sorry. Are we running out of time? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Shall we close it or shall we continue? I have 2 more slides to go.
2 more slides, sir. We can continue then.
Okay, great. The most common cause of a sprained ankle. Please remember this. Most common cause of a sprained ankle.
Discuss. Well, discuss.
Okay. Most common cause of a sprained ankle. You remember this anatomy. This is the medial side. Okay. I'm trying to get a pen. Let us see if it's working. Okay, this is the medial side. And this is the lateral side. Remember, anterior talofibular. You see, most of the twisting happens because the medial malleolus is higher and lateral malleolus is lower. You tend to adduct or invert the ankle. So you please remember this. I will. Okay, where is that? Anterior talofibular ligament. Anterior talofibular. Broadly, it is lateral ligament, but you have a choice. You can further refine your answer. So, anterior talofibular ligament. There's nothing much, but the logic or the anatomical arrangement, you please remember, fibula is 1.25 centimeter longer than the medial side, which is stabilized. So if you are walking on uneven surface or suddenly you trip and fall, your foot inverts or adducts. In case
Yes,
of a
sir.
60-year-old person with a fracture neck femur, well, that I think there is a repeat question. Tardy ulnar nerve palsy is seen in tardy. Remember, tardy is slow. You know that?
Yes, sir.
Tardy is slow. Tardy ulnar nerve palsy means it happens late. It happens over some time, over a duration. So, ulnar nerve has to happen over slowly over a prolonged time. Is it has to be put to stretch. When it stretch, either in cubitus valgus or cubitus varus.
Valgus, sir.
Valgus. In valgus, your ulnar nerve stretches. So, in this location of the elbow, there can be ulnar nerve injury, but it is not, it will be an acute ulnar nerve injury. It is not a tardy ulnar nerve palsy. So, the choices, of course, are obvious. Supracondylar fracture, again, dislocation of the elbow, again, they are acute entities. Cubitus valgus is the correct answer. Common injury to a baby is fracture humerus, clavicle. So generally this is because of the difficult labor. The answer is fracture clavicle.
Clavicular fracture.
Yes. Or again you can have a brachial plexus injury or a fracture clavicle depending upon what mode of delivery is used. Okay.
Yes,
Young
sir.
man fractured tibia left side 2 months ago is having a popliteal cyst. Now needs mobilization with a single crutch. Which will be a preferred site?
Left-sided.
You see, whenever you answer, you should tell me a reason behind that.
So you can use that crutch as the support on the other side. So it's more comfortable when it's a left-sided crutch when the left leg is.
It is not that you want to transfer. You want to transfer the weight.
Yes, sir.
The body, the liver arm. I will not get into that. It is preferred to use on the opposite side. You remember that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Bryant's triangle is useful in the diagnosis of following except it's very important. Okay. Bryant's triangle, you know what? Bryant's triangle, let's see if I can draw this. Okay. On the lateral side, if the patient is sitting, okay, I will draw this. There is a hip like this. I don't know whether you can understand this. This is your anterior superior iliac spine. Okay, there is a drop. You drop a perpendicular line, and this is your tip of the trochanter. Tip of the trochanter. You connect the line between the tip of trochanter to the anterior superior iliac spine.
Yes, sir.
One line you drop perpendicular from the anterior superior iliac spine. If you join this in perpendicular, this is your Bryant's triangle. Okay. There are importance for each line. I will not get into that now. Maybe sometime later if I get a chance. So Bryant's triangle, what is important in this is the width of this. The width of this. So imagine there is a trochanter, neck and the head. Any fracture for that matter above the trochanter. It could be fracture neck of the femur or dislocation of the head. There is this distance gets reduced. Brand's triangle is useful in the diagnosis of following except supratrochanteric, anterior dislocation, posterior dislocation, infratrochanteric. Anybody?
No, sir.
I told you know what are the factors affecting. It will be trochanter and above. So it can be a fracture or it can be a dislocation. Anterior dislocation affects, posterior dislocation also affects infratrochanteric. See, this is a trochanter. Our branch triangle doesn't get affected if there is a fracture in the shaft of the femur or in the knee or in the tibia. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any injuries, any fracture or dislocation above the trochanter. It could be fracture neck of the femur, or it could be a intertrochanter fracture, or it could be either dislocation anteriorly or posteriorly. Infratrochanter, where this is not our bony landmark at all in a branch triangle. So, branch triangle is useful in the diagnosis of the following, except infratrochanteric shortening. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think I come to the end of presentation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Share feedback.
Thank you, sir.
Share feedback with Dr. Umesh. This being my maiden class, there might be a lot of shortcomings. Let's see how I can improve